Have you wondered what your life would actually look like if you had the conversations you've been putting off? Oftentimes, when you're just feeling insecure, you're angry, or you're even sad, it's because you're not having the conversations you're meant to be having. And by me even bringing this to your attention, I'm sure a few ideas already popped into your head as to a few conversations you should be having. Look, it's in the name. Difficult conversations are not easy. But have you ever thought about what your life would look like and how bad it could be if you ignored these conversations forever? Are you smoking even though you've tried to give up numerous times? Are you eating fast food even though you've tried to quit? Are you still doom scrolling? Are some of your relationships being impacted because of the conversations that you're not having? All of these things that I have just mentioned are a symptom of a larger problem. And that problem is your inability to have difficult conversations. Now that you actually know what the problem is, in this video, I'm going to be going over who you need to be having these conversations with, as well as how to allow yourself to have these conversations. And lastly, just overall tips of how to make them easier. Firstly, the reason that I'm making this video is that this is something that I have been struggling with for a long time without even knowing it. In past relationships as well as friendships, I've let people treat me very badly due to my fear of them leaving me if I ever brought something up. So it was my fear of being lonely that made me avoid these difficult conversations. But it's because of avoiding this, it made my life so much worse. And the reason that I'm even bringing this up is that I know that many of you can relate to this, and that this lack of expression is what gets bottled up into your head at night. And this is what keeps you up. All those random thoughts that start circulating while you're trying to sleep. What if I had just said, what if I was just a little bit less afraid? It's all of this circulation in your own mind that is causing you to smoke, to binge eat, to watch porn, to do all of these things that you don't want to do. So to begin, who should you be having these conversations with? Now, I'm sure a few ideas have already popped into your head, as I mentioned before. Maybe it be a friend, a family member, a girlfriend, a boss, a significant other, but let's be honest, it's more likely than not yourself. And even if it is those other people that you need to be having a conversation with, you need to have that difficult conversation with yourself first. And when I say having a difficult conversation with yourself, if you have a smoking problem, I'm not saying that you should be telling yourself that you're an unemployed pothead, because that's only going to make you feel worse and you're just going to smoke later. Instead, you need to be saying, why do I even smoke so much? Oh, the reason is I was probably abused when I was younger, and now I want to escape my reality. That's why I smoke. I watch porn because I'm not good at anything. I don't provide any real value to society because I'm lost and I'm directionless. And to be honest, I'm very, very lonely. And as horrible as that might sound out loud, just notice how much more relieved you feel after you say this to yourself. It's almost as if a weight has been just lifted off your chest. Once you're able to have this conversation with yourself, then you can actually have it with other people. Now, I understand that having it with yourself is difficult, but having it with other people is ever more daunting. So that's why in this part, I want to explain how you can actually allow yourself to have these conversations with other people. So the very first step is that before you even have that conversation, I want you to imagine all the ways that they can react to what you're about to tell them. They might yell, they might scream, they might curse, they might even throw something across the room. I want you to imagine all of that. Now, this is very important because after you imagine all of this, I want you to repeat the following sentence to yourself numerous times. I want you to tell yourself, I am not going to die. The reason why fear even exists in the first place is to keep you alive. That primal part of your brain still exists today in modern society, but now it's for stupid reasons. You don't have direct threats coming at you anymore. No matter how badly that person reacts, believe me, under no circumstances are you going to die. Once you repeat that sentence to yourself enough times, notice how much more relaxed and you feel good about having that conversation with another person. You need to control that lizard part of your brain that is still very, very unevolved. And as mentioned, a little tip that I mentioned before to train yourself to be able to actually convince yourself that you're not going to die is to put yourself into situations that are a little bit more physically dangerous as much as you can. Now, hear me out. Please do not do anything stupid. I hope you guys are smart enough to understand what I'm about to say. But when I say physically dangerous, I mean under certain circumstances. For example, this summer, I went to amusement parks a lot more than I ever have in a really long time. And this, if you think about it, an amusement park is pretty physically dangerous. You are dropping from 100 feet in the air and you're going 70, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour while doing that. But it's a controlled setting. It's very unlikely that you're going to die. But if you were to naturally fall from there, you would probably die or get very, very injured. As well as this summer, I've gone zip lining and I've gone ATV riding, where if I were to fall off from that zip line, I would very much probably die or I would get injured. Same with ATV riding. The reason why doing these activities is very important is not just so you can have difficult conversations, but you will start to realize that once you go into your actual life and you're not in these settings anymore, you'll realize how stupid the things are that you stress about on a daily basis. Those things that are on your mind, being late, having a difficult conversation, whatever it might be, does not really matter. When you're in a situation where you could fall off from 150 feet, that is a legitimate and direct threat right in front of you. And that's something that you should be worried about. Once you're back into real life, you'll realize, whoa, the things that I'm actually worrying about don't really matter. So when you're in situations where you could potentially die, when you're about to have a difficult conversation and you're able to repeat to yourself, I'm not going to, it's going to become so much more believable. I know this video might have been a little bit hard for many of you to digest and many of you may not take action, but I promise if you do, this is what is holding you back in so many areas of your life. But as always, I wish you all the utmost success because there's plenty for all of us. Mwah.